Hello, welcome to another train simulator video. This time we're on Train Sim Classic, and I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at scenarios that have been created, on occasions, sometimes I'll think and look at one and say, I didn't realise that was actually possible in Train Sim Classic. And this is a case in point. For one thing, I didn't realise we could use a 357. And for another thing, I didn't realise that it was possible to do a C2C run. This is Purfleet, and the 357 is come about by using a class 170. This has been done by George Beany, and then he has put in 375 carriages, and he's added in a sound pack as well, so that we have an EMU sound. So we do have a pantograph. And as you can see, it looks the part. The C2C modelling looks nice. And there's the pantograph. I think it might just be that the wires haven't actually loaded in. I was a bit too quick with the unpause. And the actual route we'll talk about in a moment. But let's first of all get the game unpaused and then the scenario set up and ready to go. We're on a diversionary service into London Liverpool Street instead of course Fenchurch Street, which isn't in the game. Perhaps there isn't any wiring around here. I hadn't noticed that actually, but we'll ignore that bit for the moment. We don't need to worry about opening the doors, I don't believe, because it says that passengers have already been loaded. Let's get some headlights on, and we'll turn off the DRA as well. Just make sure. Actually, I think I've switched the headlights off. That should be about right. So Raynham is our first stop. This is a weekend diversionary service, so we're going from Grays effectively to London Liverpool Street. Now Grays isn't quite in the game, but having said that, it's not all that far off. It's not too far back. So in theory that could be quite easily added. And this is Danny's North London and Faversham, Dover, Ramsgate, Goblin route from 2016. Right, now we've got wiring. I mean, it could nicely do with a little bit of an upgrade because it's a little bit outdated in terms of the OHLE that's been used. There are better packs in the game. And I have checked, it is a thing, it does occasionally, you do occasionally see C2C services that go into London Liverpool Street at the weekend on diversionary services. We're actually travelling under here, the HSE 1 line, so you might possibly see a Javelin coming through. Can go up to 60 now. I mean, it's not a line I know a great deal about, the C2C line. This scenario, incidentally, is from Cranky Bot. It's 9 Romeo 1.5, and it only goes as far as Stratford. So I thought, well, I really want to carry on the run into London Liverpool Street, so I've just modified an existing scenario from the new ATS Gemma line. So that kind of means that we have a proper run into Liverpool Street. I mean, this route itself would take you into London Liverpool Street, but I just kind of fancied combining the two, really, because the catenary, the upgrade, everything that went with it is just massively better. We are alongside the HS1 line at the moment. Try and remember, I keep pressing F1 to get rid of the screen where I'm thinking of TSW. There you are again. I'll get it right before we get to the end of the run. Yeah, Grays is certainly not that far off from Purfleet, so is well within touching distance on this route. Probably wouldn't. Oh, there we have a javelin coming through. Probably perfectly doable, I would say. And even with my limited route building skills, it's possible I could do it, but finding the time's another matter. Nice that we've got proper C2C signage as well. So it might not be to everybody's perfection, but it looks the part as far as I'm concerned. There isn't a great deal of difference between the 170 body and the 357. Dagenham Docks is next. Glamorous places that you go through on this C2C route. There we go, managed to press the right button this time, F3. And just to confirm, I forgot now, you can bring, there we are, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, of course, F1. So Dagenham Docks, then Barking, and then Stratford. And of course, if it was actually a run going to Fenchurch Street, it would veer off after Stratford towards West Ham and is it Limehouse, I think, before coming to Fenchurch Street. Many people over the years have requested the C2C line in one way, shape or form for Train Sim Classic or Train Sim World, but it's never quite materialised. There was a chap, I think, called Scott Broadwood, who I think he's built it for Train Sim Classic, but he's been trying very hard to get it released officially as an add-on, but it's never quite come about. It's only about half an hour's trip into Stratford itself, and then a few more minutes into London Liverpool Street. Of course, you'll know Danny from Train Sim Classic and the route building or route extensions that he's done. There's a whole selection of them on the Steam Workshop, and he's quite legendary in Train Sim Classic terms. I don't know whether he's definitely still working for Dovetail Games or not. Is it Danny Leach, I think I'm right in saying? But I think he was substantially part of producing the official London Victoria to Dover and Ramsgate routes. So Barking is next. And I think that's pretty much where we pick up the pace a little bit in terms of this route, because Barking, as you'll probably expect, is pretty busy with some S-stock action coming into play. And I think from there on it's pretty busy towards Stratford. Then I think we might be following a 315. But for the early part of this scenario, it's pretty quiet. But I think I'm right in saying this particular Steam Workshop one, and it's important to pick the right one, is the only one that encompasses this particular part of the line and adds in a little bit more. And I think Danny himself did have plans to extend or at least fill in more scenery in some of the workshop routes that he's created, but again it's just finding time with these things. Never really thought of this when I was looking at this the other night, but essentially, and I'm assuming this is accurate, but it's single line running, isn't it, on this section into Barking? So unless that line alongside us, it would also have catenary in real life, maybe. Of course, we're kind of missing the posts as well in this section, but it's only a short section to Barking in any case. So as things stand, that was double yellow, so we might actually get held just before Barking station itself, which would be typical in terms of what a busy station it is. The only other thing that was a bit weird for me personally as well, oh, that's still double yellow, so we might be, we're signalled into Barking then, aren't we? the only thing I found personally loading up the route was that at Purfleet there was no platform, so I didn't put any fencing in for the station, but I did actually hurriedly put the platforms in at least. And you'll have come into Barking on Tradesim World as well from Ripple Lane or from Barking Riverside. Oh, there we are. We've got a I think it's an S7, isn't it, coming into the platforms. We've got a 357 leaving us. I know I should. I mean, you get that little sort of jerk really by coming in on step 3 brakes. I should really be coming in on step 2 or even step 1. You know, that's kind of easiness for the passengers. Yeah, so you've got the S7, and then you've also got a 172 over there as well, because of course this was the time when before Barking Riverside came into existence, so you had that Barking to Gospel Oak service. It's kind of interesting to make the comparison because we did that Barking Riverside to Gospel Oak with the new timetable in Trainsim World very recently. But we've got another S7 train coming in as well. Bit disappointed on the roadmap point of view. I mean, there's lots of exciting stuff coming out for Trainsim World 6 in the coming weeks, but I was hoping for a bit of news on the Johannes extension to Richmond, but it just seems to be slightly further away at the moment. It's certainly not going to be released, they're saying, in the next 3 months. Well, there we go. That's good timing, isn't it? We're coming out the same time as the District Line train. And as far as I know, this is probably the first time I've ever actually used these tracks. So it's quite exciting to be doing a little bit of the network that I don't think I've driven previously. So this section into Stratford, and we'll join the Great Eastern Main Line before we get to Stratford itself. I mean, in that Trainsim World Goblin line new timetable, which I pretty much enjoyed, there was a kind of a 170 just reskinned as a 357, and that's probably not overly authentic because of course you still have the diesel sounds, but at least we've got the EMU sounds with this, and we have a pantograph as well, so it's pretty accurate, I think. Another C2C service there. When I first downloaded the pack, I hadn't got the branding patch installed, but I've gone through the putting the branding patch in for the 170 and the 375, so I think that's what's done it. So this is Woodgrange Park. And we better get some brakes on because we're slowing down to 15. Might just about do it. Well, yeah. Not sure I should have braked quite so as harshly as that. So again, I'm more than used to with Train Sim World and Train Sim Classic veering off to the left here to gain access to the Goblin line to Gospel Oak, but this is taking us on routes via Woodgrange Park Junction to take us on to the Great Eastern Main Line. There is a 315, and that's why we have a red signal. And that'll be on a Shenfield to London Liverpool Street service, of course. Right, okay, well that's good, we haven't had to stop. Of course, nowadays the Shenfield services, the stopping ones are operated by the Class 345s on the Elizabeth line trains, so would not go through the main line platforms at Liverpool Street, or the terminus platforms anyway. We've got a Class 90 as well coming through on a Norwich service. Well, at least the DVT is leading. Promise that before the end of the video I'll get used to pressing the right buttons. We should be 20 here. Right, now we're up to 50. Although again, we've got to be careful because we have a single yellow. We've got another Class 90 heading towards Liverpool Street this time. So we're waiting for our train, our 315 in front of us to clear the platforms. Yeah, it just has now, because that's, there we go, you can see single yellow. What was quite nice as well is I installed this scenario, and I think I basically got all the stock, so I didn't need to install absolutely loads of reskins, which made a nice pleasant change. So we've got double yellow, so we might be able to get a bit of speed up. And again, it's perfectly possible to do this section with the new ATS Gemma Route, but it was kind of where'd you cut it, as it were. So I thought Stratford makes a logical endpoint, seen as though this scenario by Cranky Bot ends at Stratford. But I couldn't resist the idea of just completing the run. It would feel unfinished business to end the scenario at Stratford. Heading towards Maryland, which makes me feel a bit hungry. I've not had dinner at this point, and I'm immediately thinking about Maryland cookies. We do have a 315, but in the down platform. I might possibly be missing the branding patches on the 315s. We are double yellow, but again they're very short sections, the signal blocks in this area. So we best, I think, go a little bit cautiously. We've got a 360 now about to come past us. Of course they are on the East Midlands, or on the Midland Main Line, I should say, on Corby services, I think, nowadays. We are coming into Stratford station itself, so we've got a single yellow, but we still might have a 315 waiting in platform 5. Again, a lot of concentration needed from the driving perspective with these constant adverse signals. We've been fairly lucky up till this point, really, in that we haven't been held up at all, but we have got a slight wait now. Again, there is a Norwich bound train waiting there. We've also got a 378 on a North London line service to either Richmond or Clapham Junction. No, we've not got no destinations lines on at the moment. It looks as if it's probably only just arrived. Should get a glimpse there of West Ham's football ground, which was the Olympic Stadium. And this is what we're waiting for first of all, the 315 to leave, which is about to happen now. Oh, it's all going on now. I love this. And you could also see the 378 arriving in as well on the far side. So again, ex-Clapham Junction or Richmond service, no doubt. Right, so we've got a single yellow, so let's get ourselves into the platform. It's an excellent little scenario by Cranky Bot, this. And as I say, the part 2 is a bit of a modified scenario, but just so that we could complete the run into London Liverpool Street. So I'm hoping that works. That's the first thing I'll say. Yeah, it's gone from being really, really quiet in the early stages of the scenario to being incredibly busy. And there's a Shenfield service coming in as well. And what I can promise you is we have the same unit numbers at front and back as well. So 357313 on the front, and then I believe it's 357205 on the back. I think we've got a 321 coming through as well. So we're about to go into our final stage of the journey into London Liverpool Street. And this is using the Alan Thompson simulation Gemma route. It's a bit of a gem actually, all puns intended there. But it massively upgrades the original route, which of course is very, very old in terms of Train Sim Classic. Personally, what I'd absolutely love to see is the Adventurer from Train Sim World coming into this add-on. It would really make it quite something. And of course we've seen the way, because I haven't bought it yet, but they did produce the 166 from Train Sim World, and they made that into Train Sim Classic. So if they could do that with the Adventurer, and then we'd have Greater Anglia and 345 services, it would be really quite handy. And it would be perfectly possible, if you got the era right, you could do Shenfield into Liverpool Street, because there was a period before the main Elizabeth line services were used where that was done. But a fascinating little section, I always think, this into Liverpool Street itself. I mean, there's also an argument for saying that extending from Barking to Fenchurch Street isn't that huge, but I think way beyond my abilities, both in terms of what's involved with it and the time that that would take up. But this is massively improved, both in terms of the catenary, and you can see the hangers and everything up to the standard that it is now. I don't know what those new sorts are called there, but it's something a bit different. And upgraded in terms of the buildings that have been put in as well. I just think it's a shame, really, that there hasn't been more scenarios created for it. It really deserves it, but I think that is the one thing missing, because we don't have the adventurers in there. Certainly the flirts are good fun to drive. So you can see familiar London landmarks coming into play in the distance. I haven't properly tested this really, so I'm just keeping all fingers crossed that we do actually make a proper arrival into Liverpool Street. Of course, the constant AWS hammering here is not so much adverse signals. In fact, we've had greens all the way. It has been the reduction in speed. So 30 mile an hour coming into play soon. We come down quite an incline to get into the station. I think we're about to cross under the East London line, which of course goes off towards Shoreditch High Street. I did hear some plans that they were considering putting a shopping centre on top of London Liverpool Street, which personally I just hope that never happens, because it's an amazing station. There's so many great stations in London, but Liverpool Street is one of them. So I hope you've enjoyed this little scenario, and as I say, the first part was done by Cranky Bot. This is just me playing with an existing scenario and just modifying it to get us into Liverpool Street itself. And a rare bit of 357 action And I say, if you haven't got that, have a look out for that. I think it's on Train Sim Community website and Alan Thompson Simulation. I think the class 357, and you need the 170 and the 375 enhancement pack. I think you need the 379 pack as well, so that you get the sounds. Kind of manoeuvring ourselves into Liverpool Street itself. We're coming into the more open bit, because the platform's a little bit over to the left, where you're sort of covered up a little bit, is not quite so exciting. But this feels like the real old station building. And Liverpool Street, as you would expect, is absolutely chocked full of trains. So there you go. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and if you have enjoyed watching it, you haven't done so before, be grateful if you consider liking and subscribing, and join us for our live stream at Sundays 5 PM for 4 hours of Train Sim World 6 action. But until next time, thanks again from Powerflower Trains and Planes. For now, it is goodbye.